Episode 15 of British Strength Radio with Paul George. If you would like to support the generation of future episodes of this podcast, head over to BritishStrengthMagazine.com and subscribe to British Strength Magazine. We have the brightest minds in the UK strength sports industry writing for the magazine, and we have interviews with the UK's best athletes. Paul George, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Alex. It's a pleasure to be here.
How are you today?
Fine. A bit damp and wet, same as everybody else. I've just dashed from a funeral. So it's just one of them kind of things that you kind of have to do in life as you get to a certain age. People die.
Yeah, I've seen you post a lot about that on your Facebook and stuff recently. So
yeah, I just seem to be at an age where my generation's just popping the clogs. So it is what it is. Nothing to get morbid about.
On some more positive things.
Yes.
You've, I'd say, recently just come back from the GPC British. It's your most recent competition. It's been a few weeks, but it was your last one.
Mm-hmm.
It was your most recent one, sorry.
Yeah. I had 3 years off. So I just got old. I don't mean old, but my body just started breaking down. I had a slight illness, which I couldn't quite put my finger on. Just didn't feel myself, lost muscle mass, lost strength, things like that. So it took me about 2 or 3 years to get over it. And that was my first. Well, I did the qualifier, and that the British was like the capping of it all, really. To look back on where I was and where I wanted to be. So it kind of brought me up to date, kind of thing.
Okay, so how did you do there? Can you take me through kind of how the prep was and how the comp was for you?
Prep was pretty standard, to be fair. I suppose I am known as a powerlifter, but it's not my primary sport, if you know what I mean. I tend to be a bodybuilder for a lot longer, so people have known me for that more than anything. Prep was pretty standard, whatever that means. I've been struggling with a few injuries here and there, so my bench has always been my Achilles heel of whatever I did. So that really didn't progress that well. Squats and deadlifts were fairly good. They've always been my mainstay. I've always been fairly strong in both lifts as a powerlifter and as a bodybuilder. So that was pretty much it, really. I had a very simple program. I just stuck to it, 12 weeks, prep there and everywhere, and just took on board, how I felt on the day.
Yeah.
And that was it, really. I'm not one of these people that's fastidious about writing things down and memorising everything and what happened on the day and what didn't happen on the day. So you can talk to somebody else about the same competition and they can embellish everything that they did, said, and what happened. And to be fair, I lifted and I came home, and that's pretty much it. I had a few targets that I wanted to achieve and I got them. And same with bodybuilding. I used to have a date in mind, a competition in mind. And when I got there, did that, and then it was right, okay, what's next? I don't seem to sit and dwell on things too long, to be fair.
No, you don't, do you? We've known each other for a long time. Obviously about 11 years, I think I was just calculating it before. And you've always been the same type of attitude towards like big things coming up. And big things having just gone. You always said to me things like, you live in the moment.
Yeah.
You said you compared yourself to a dog recently. I'm not comparing you to a dog.
No.
Being disrespectful.
I mean, it's the mindset.
But you live in the moment.
Yeah. No, I know what's coming on and I know what's gone behind, and I have no idea what's coming in the future really till I start getting ready for it or till I do it. So I don't over worry about things. I don't overthink things. It's just the way I am, I think. It's just I don't seem to attach a great deal of importance to a lot of things, especially superficial. Whether you're humble beginnings, you're a beginner, a novice, intermediate, professional, whatever that means. I don't attach great store to it. It's just a title kind of thing, and it's where you are at the moment kind of thing. A lot of people do little things and then they live the rest of their life off that little thing. Mm-hmm. And I know lots of people that have achieved monumental achievements in different sports, lifestyle things, and to talk to them, you would think they've done nothing. You know what I mean? Because they just don't portray themselves as that thing. They identify themselves and not what that they've done. It doesn't define them.
Yeah, I would definitely say you're more the latter there. I think obviously you run your business through through your interest in, lifting weights basically, and you have done for 25 years. Have you been in business?
We're actually coming up for 27 now.
27 years you've been in business. But at the same time, like you just said, like I remember like years ago asking you, are you excited for X competition? And you're just like, no. But like not in like a dismissive way, more just kind of like, well, there's no point being excited now, is there? Like it's because now isn't the competition.
No.
And like you've just said, once something's been and gone, you're in the present moment again, and you either think about the next one or you think about probably more more prudently, you think about your current phase of training.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say that when I get there I don't enjoy these things. I do. I just probably not as emotional as some people get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's I don't know. It's just hard to define. I take pleasure and enjoyment out of it. I think sometimes the chase is better than the catch.
Yes.
The lead up to it, all the expectations. I think on the day, whatever say bodybuilding wise or powerlifting wise, you've spent 12 weeks or 16 weeks or 26 weeks prepping to get ready for that day, and you should be ready on that day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't suddenly turn around and say, I wasn't ready, or this wasn't right, or that wasn't right, or blame other things. At the end of the day, it lands in your lap.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It stands and falls by your own, what you've done to get you to that point. And you should own it. If you've had a great day, you own that. If you've had a bad day, you own that. Don't look to blame other people. And it's easy done, and some people do and some people don't. And some people, sometimes it may be warranted that they can blame somebody else. But at the end of the day, how many things? I did my first competition in 1980.
Wow.
And that was a small body. I mean, I did other things before that. I was a junior football player, rugby player, and all this kind of stuff. But in the context of strength and iron that we're talking about today, my first competition was the Walter O'Malley Spring Classic at Par Hall, Warrington. And people have heard me say this before. It was I came 12th out of 10th. I was that bad, but I owned that. I went away and I learnt from it and stuff like that. But even from that competition, people were upset and this and that. And for the last nearly 40 years, I've done other things, seen other competitions. I have never yet seen anybody, no matter how hard they demonstrated or remonstrated or kicked off or spat the dummy out, I have never yet seen a decision overturned. Never.
Yeah.
So you kind of
that's in bodybuilding and in powerlifting.
And in pretty much everything. So I think, you know what? It doesn't matter what you think or say or do. You're not going to influence the judges. You're not going to influence that decision. So just walk away and accept that that's what it was. Yeah. The best you can hope for is in anything is to get the decision you deserve. And if you've trained hard, worked hard, and you get that decision, it's great. And then sometimes you don't get that decision. But you have to be appreciative of the other competitor, because they've trained just as hard, put just as much effort in, and they're feeling exactly the same as you do. They have the same emotions, the same ups and downs and stuff like that. So you have to think, okay, it was his day today, or it was her day today. So you have to accept that that's life, really.
Yeah,
bit of a side shoot there, but
No,
as if I want, I'm like I drift along sometimes.
I prefer that, and anyone who's probably overheard our conversations with each other in the past probably has an idea of how this one's going to go.
Yeah, we do seem to drift off.
Yeah, but I don't think like you're saying, I don't think any one person should feel that they're special.
No.
And they should accept that they don't always have the perfect day, but within our sports that we've both done, powerlifting and bodybuilding, you probably have got the sports there which are the most consistent in terms of the playing field, the setting in which you compete. Bodybuilding, you're going to get a stage, you're going to get your body which should be ready. Nothing's really going to happen on the day which could change you that much. The judges will be different, sure, because it's subjective, but powerlifting, it's literally as long as the equipment is as specified, which it normally is in most federations.
Yeah.
You're not gonna on the days. You can't really make excuses for the actual for the setting on
No,
the day?
I mean, I've been to places and I've heard people blame the carpet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I didn't like the pattern on the carpet. Really? What was you doing looking at the floor? So yeah, people would pick and choose anything that's that gives them an out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't have to look hard to find an excuse if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Cool.
So going back to the competition, the British.
Okay.
Of course, I mean, in these things, anyone who knows you knows that you're pretty good. And you're, for context, you're a 57-year-old Masters 4 lifter.
Oh, yeah.
Masters 4 lifter. And within the UK, I don't think you really have any competition in terms of someone who's going to be formidable enough to beat you on the day. I'm not talking formula, I'm talking within your weight class and the age class.
Uh-huh.
Would you agree with that?
So far.
Yeah. So
I've like I say, I've been in this game for a long, long time, and I really now don't prejudge anybody that I see. I used to do that when I was younger and naive and ignorant and full of bollocks, and I would, they can't do that, oh, you'll never do this, you'll never do that, and then I've been proved wrong so many times where somebody's come along and done something that I thought they couldn't do, or picked up something that they couldn't do, or that I thought they couldn't do, changed the body by dieting and training and got a better physique than I thought they would. So now I don't really say or think anything like that, because you can be proved wrong. So there could well be somebody out there that's never up till this point done any training, considered powerlifting. Next year they might, for whatever reason, go to the gym, find out that they're really strong, and then next year kick my ass.
Yeah.
And it'd be like one thing to, well, where did he come from? And the world's full of people like that.
Yeah.
Some people just don't get the opportunities. So it's not that I'm that good, maybe. It's just that more fortunate people haven't got the positions and the opportunities that I've had.
Yeah. So really, within these competitions, these big competitions you go to, like the British, guys like you and most of the Masters guys, I think, are probably looking at the overall for their point of for their real aim. They want to achieve, because within the weight classes, it's just, if you're really good, you pretty much always, I
agree with that. We are a select few, shall we say? Yeah. We're in that age group where most of us are either broken or dead or invalided. So like getting back to get on the day and on the competition, the older you get, the harder it is to peak correctly on that day. It's because you've got time and things against you. Things ache more. When I was 21, 22, probably up to late 40s, I was invincible. In my head, I could pick it up, I could put it down, I could recover, I could train 6 days a week, and I would smash myself and think, it doesn't matter, I'll be fine tomorrow, I won't break. And now, every day, it's like, I'm a bit sore here today, and a bit this and a bit that. So, being able to turn up on point when you're younger is pretty much a given, you know. But then once you get past 50 and all that given is not there, So you have to make sure that you train right, you rest right, you do everything that you should do, because otherwise little things can make a difference, it just knocks you off your game. So.
When you say that, do you feel like you were almost unique in that respect? Because you see a lot of 20, 30, 40-year-olds, 18-year-olds even, whatever. Do you feel that like all young people who train, who compete, are kind of like that invincible? Or do you feel like amongst your own peer group then, you were pretty much a standout in terms of, because you were really good, weren't you, in terms of bodybuilding, and in terms of actually lifting heavy weights as a bodybuilder as well? You were really, really, really good at that age. So do you feel like you were unique in that aspect, or do you think were you talking generally there?
Good question. Do I feel I'm unique? Probably yes, but I'm only saying that because you asked it me. I wouldn't think that I'm anything special, better than anybody else, because I do what I do, and it's like, if you do what you do and you like doing it, it's because you like to do it. The fact I was good at it made me enjoy it more.
Yeah.
It's only, like I say, when I was a bodybuilder, I'm going to use that because I've been a bodybuilder a lot longer than I was a powerlifter. So a lot of my decisions and thought processing came through that avenue. But once I'd decided that's what I was doing, and I competed as a lightweight bodybuilder, and then a light middleweight, and then a middleweight, and then a heavy middleweight kind of thing. Different federations, different weight classes here and there. The challenge to myself was how good was I? So it wasn't good enough that I would win the qualifier or the British. I then had to go on to do the Europeans, and I had to go and do the Worlds. And then I would do that across 2 or 3 different federations. So I would win different weight classes across different federations, across different countries and things like that. And that for me proved that I was good, because almost I could take my game plan abroad. You know, there's a lot of people stay at home or pick the competition because they know who's going to be there and who's not. And I just go, well, where's the competition and who is it and where is it? And I would do that because you have a risk of getting beat then.
Yeah.
And that was the challenge, is if I go there and I win, I have to be better than that, and I have to be better than them. And so that was it. And I remember coming back from Montpellier with the EPF and the WPF way back when, and I was in this little 20-seater aircraft flying out, and I was flying over the Alps at the time, and I looked down, and I just laughed to myself. Out loud, actually. I got a bit of a, what are you laughing at? You know, one of them things when you laugh inappropriately in a plane. And I was just thinking that I'm world champion. And I looked out and I could see the Alps, and I thought, this is just one country, you know, and I've just beaten, and there were 22 in the class. Because I remember it, because at the beginning we all walked out with the flags and this and that, and I remember how many teams there were, and I just remember laughing, thinking, I'm the best in the world. I've beaten... I know there's 200 countries in the world, so you can't exactly say that you are the best, but you're the best at a world championships of all the people that turn up. You know, people say, you know, you only won because so-and-so didn't turn up. But the thing with a competition is that somebody had to turn up for you to compete. Yeah. And if they don't turn up and you turn up and you beat them, then you're better than them, aren't you?
Yeah, and not everyone... And there's no competition where everyone turns up.
No. So, you know, you're just fortunate on the day that... You know, whoever turns up and you're managing to beat them, you know, you're managing to beat them, kind of thing. So in that respect, then I kind of thought, I must be kind of special, kind of thing. But no, I did work hard at it. Yeah. You know what I mean? I dedicated a lot of my life towards it. I was very centered, very focused on it. And funny enough, we had this conversation the other day with somebody else about what you're prepared to give up. You know, how much you're prepared to give up. You know, how much is it going to cost you financially, socially, relationship-wise, all of them things. You know that happen. I've seen them happen many, many times over the 40 odd years I've been training here and there. You know, couples split up, boyfriends split up, girlfriends split up, people lose their houses, and you kind of think this is just a sport. But it isn't just a sport. Once you get into it and you get into that obsessive side of it, then it's like any other addiction. You know, it's it is a mental illness, I think. When you get to a certain degree, doesn't affect everybody. I've known people, but not so many, that can breathe through a diet, still function, still have a happy family life, still have the kids and all the rest of it. But that's the minority. The most of the people that I've come across that have been very successful have struggled one way or the other with a family or with work or with jobs, because it is so obsessive. You know, one of the basics of being a human is to eat, drink, sleep, rest. Okay? They're the major things that, as a bodybuilder, get disrupted. You get fixated on food so that you're looking at the clock. All right, 2.5 hours, I have to eat. Rest, you don't get enough sleep because you're thinking about eating the next meal at 3 o'clock in the morning. You train till you're broken in bits, and then your recovery is not the same. And then on top of that, if you're not fortunate like I want to have a gym, you have to get up at work at silly o'clock in the morning, work stupid hours, socialise with people, and then go to the gym after that. So it's really tough. So, you know, in that respect, I think that does break people's barriers down, you know, regarding that kind of aspect of things.
Yeah. I think I've kind of...
I'm going to throw you it because I just waffled.
No, because I kind of lost my train of thought.
Yeah, no.
In the middle of what you were saying, I wanted to ask you something, but then I got more fixated on the rest of what you were saying.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you are a lot more... you were a lot more stoic than you are now. Like, as a bodybuilder, I think, in general, I think, like, around that time, I think you took literally... I think bodybuilding made you take everything more seriously. If that makes it sound like you're living life as a joke now. That's not what I mean.
No,
but it made you like you couldn't switch off from the bodybuilding, and it just kind of carried over into other sides of your life, maybe. Like,
yeah, no, it did. And people, there's people in the gym that have been here since day one, kind of thing. And it's only in the last 10 years that I've actually got to speak to them and find out that they actually have kids, they have a job and things like that, because they wouldn't talk to me because I was such an arsehole. I'd be so... I didn't mean to be an arsehole. I was just so driven that I thought everybody should train like me. Everybody should put everything into it. And it's not the case, you know what I mean? And it's only when I step sideways and look back and I think... could I have done it any other way? Could I have... Me personally, I don't think so. I think that's just the way I am. Probably the last 3 years or so, when I took a sidestep from powerlifting, I looked at myself a lot more regarding that respective thing. Because when I finished bodybuilding, I went straight into powerlifting. I didn't have a break from anything. It was like one day I'm bodybuilder, then I retired, and the next day I was full on powerlifter. And so the mindset for me was one addiction for another, you know what I mean? So I just went hell-bent into that. I learned my craft, I learned how to squat, I learned how to bench, I learned how to deadlift technically for a competition. And so it just, I never actually switched off, if you know what I mean. And it was only when I was ill that I could switch off, because I couldn't train, I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And so it's almost like the barriers came down. And then you can kind of go, oh, you know, you can do other things, you know. And I'm not saying I didn't do other things. I'm just saying I can now do more things. And I think I'm a more sociable person. And I still like to train hard, and I still like to try and do this and that. But I know that my limitations are a lot closer to the ground floor than they were before. You know, like I said before, I used to think I was invincible and I could do this and I could do that. Now I think, oh, can I get through this without breaking something?
Yeah.
You know, it's a totally different perspective. And it's probably, like I say, I retired when I'm 49 and I'm coming up for 58 now. So it's probably taken me 8 years to retrain my brain and retrain my body into what's acceptable and what isn't. You know, I know there are, you look out and you see on YouTube that there's guys of 50, 60, 70 looking good and doing this and doing that, but they are the exceptions. You know what I mean? They're ones.
Do you mean like Robbie Robinson, for example?
Yeah,
maybe?
But even other guys, you just see them on Facebook and YouTube. You know, oh, this 60. I mean, the thing is, you can't believe whether they are that old or not. But there are still people out there that are fantastically physically strong and look good and all the rest of it for their age. And that may just be down to genetics, it may be down to drugs, it may be down to whatever. The fact is, but they're still 1 in 7 billion. You know what I mean? Would
you not say you're part of that as well, though?
I think other people would have to say that.
Right, okay.
You know, I'm not that arrogant to assume that I'm in that class. But yeah, I still train hard, I still train. Most of the people I train with are still 20 years younger than me and about 4 or 5 stone heavier, so I still give everybody a good run for their money. So,
and on the subject of quote unquote retirement, I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast with a guy called David Goggins the other day. I think I might have even mentioned it to you.
Yeah.
So I'm losing audio through my headphones and the speaker. Hopefully that should be better. So I was listening to this podcast the other day, and David Goggins was talking about the concept of retirement, slowing down. That people have this kind of concept of like when men get to 40, like, oh, I'm getting old, etc., etc. Oh, I shouldn't be doing that now, and you know they kind of stop playing sport. I mean, naturally in some sports, you will kind of be phased out in terms of like a lot of team sports and stuff, because you do get past your best by then. But he was saying like at that point a lot of men, and the way he put it was, they become civilized, and he was like, he thinks like that's the worst thing that can happen to a man. Maybe it's the way he described it is probably not the right way, because you can always be civilized, but I think you know what he was trying to get at.
Yeah, I think so.
You become less primal.
I think that's society saying that to people, rather than I think it depends on the sport that you've done, and it depends on your mentality. I think a lot of people in certain sports, like you say, they get to a certain age and they get to a certain level of caliber where they're at, and it is virtually, well, that's it, you're out, and unless you've made store to carry on and do something else, or to change, or to reinvent yourself, then a lot of people just switch off. Using a slight different anecdote is when I was younger and I worked in a factory. When did I start working? When I was about 15, something like that. And I had to do an apprenticeship, and it was a 7-year apprenticeship, so I was 20 odd when I finished it. And now, all the way from that, I would work in a different department. Each year you would go and do different things until the end you became a fully skilled engineer. But I would work with different people on different benches or different machine shops or different whatevers, and they'd been there pretty much since they were 15. Now these guys were 50 odd, 60 odd.
Yeah.
And they would retire, and that was it. They'd go off and you'd never see them again. And then 6 months or a year later on, somebody would come in that you knew, go, oh, remember old Bob that used to work on the fitting shop and do this and that? Yeah, worked well, but he died. What do you mean he died? Died. Left here, and he was so institutionalised that when they couldn't get up at 4:30 in the morning to get to work for 6, because that's all they've been doing for 40 years, they had nothing else to do, so they just died of boredom. Or the heart just broke, or the head just broke, or whatever, because they did not adapt. They didn't find something else. To be fair, there was probably nothing they could do at that time. If you think that would be mid to late 70s, you know what I mean? So society was a totally different thing then. There was no kids, there was no mobile phones, there was no internet, there was no videos, there was no CDs, there was none of these things. So the things that you have nowadays, they did not exist. It's not a myth, so when people left, they went to the pub, and that was pretty much it, you know what I mean? Or the bookies. There was no other entertainment for 60-odd-year-old men in the 1970s. Yeah,
it was pretty much everyone kind of through the life kind of lived by the same kind of mould, whereby you would go to work, you'd go to the pub, or either before or after that, I guess, your wife would cook you your tea. Yeah, your tea would be on the table.
Yeah, you'd watch telly, because colour tellies came in about 1960. So if you were luxuries, then you'd have a colour telly, so you sit down and watch TV. Until it went off. It used to go on and off. It didn't need to be 24-hour telly.
Right.
It would come on in the morning for a bit and then go off, and then it'd come on in the evening and then it'd go off, and that was it. So you didn't have 24-hour TV, you didn't have 24-hour radios, so they just broke, you know what I mean? So we kind of circumvented again, if you noticed. The point being that retiring, Mr. Goggins, that you can work yourself into a retirement as long as you think, I'm going to keep doing this, I'm going to do this. And you can train at 100%, but it's your 100%, and it might not be the 100% you did when you was 40, but the 100% you can do at 50 and at 60 and 70. So yes, your numbers are going to drop, but as long as you're training as hard as you can, you're sweating, you're still getting a muscle pump, you're still building. To a degree, you are not going to build any muscle mass, because your testosterone level through your socks by the time you get to that age is just non-existent. So unless you start going on TRT, which realistically I think in this country, if you're over 45, 50, I think the NHS should put it in there. You should manage it. It'll cost the NHS probably 75p a vial, and it will massively affect men as they get older. It's good for your bone density, it's good for your testosterone level, it's good for fat, it's good for your cardio, it's good for so many things.
Mental well-being
as well. That's it, you know what I mean? And that side of things, I think for the stigma of using steroids, you know what I mean, and all the thing that goes around that, if they were to give they give women TRT.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
From a very, very,
young age. So I don't see why men can't get it in their old age, because it would offset so many other injuries and illnesses that it would benefit the NHS to a massive. I couldn't even put a figure on it, but it must be massive amount, millions and millions and millions of pounds it would save for 75p a month.
Yeah, and I think in America they've caught up a lot more on that. And I don't know whether that's just because they're more progressive in terms of the healthcare, or whether because it makes them a lot of money. But
both, I would think. To be fair, if you know that you can make a product and you can sell it, and on the offshoot people get healthier. See, the American healthcare totally different. It's funded because you pay for everything you get.
Yeah.
Over here, you pay for it whether you use it or not, and sometimes you don't get back what you've paid in. You know what I mean? And the medical practitioners look at certain things and say, no, they're not having that, and they make the decision for you. You know, there's a lot of stuff at the moment about the CBD oil, you know, and how people know it works. Doctors know it works. There've been thousands of people that have cured themselves from cancers and this and that, and yet they will still maintain the fact that, well, we don't know what the side effects are, so we can't make it mainstream. Well, the side effect of not having CBD oil, if you've got cancer, is you're going to die. So no matter what else, you know, if you have chemotherapy and radiotherapy, you can still die. But the side effects to them two things are horrible.
Yeah.
You know, whereas you can take cannabis oil, it may cure it, it may not. It's not going to make you any worse. You know, the medication itself isn't going to make you any worse.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really comment on it because I've never actually seen any of the studies. I've not done any research into it. I've only heard like what I've heard.
Yeah,
but,
I've done quite a bit of reading, but I know two people.
You know, so that was what I was going to ask. You know,
yeah, I know somebody, this girl, and she was really, really, really poorly, and she went through all of it, and in the end said, you know what, I'm not doing it again. It's worse, than I'd rather die than go through chemo and radiotherapy. And they're her words, not mine. I'm not being exaggerated or whatever. And she looked into this CBD oil, and she got all the protocols. She managed somehow to find it and took it. And she cured herself. And she cured herself to the fact that when she was poorly, they said to her, look, even if you survive, you will never have kids. You're so badly damaged at this sort of level. And now she's got a 3-year-old boy.
That's a pretty amazing
and
story.
He's healthy and fit and bouncing. She's healthy and fit and bouncing. And that to me is like, well, it was worth the risk of her doing that, because she was going to die anyway. The chemo was going to kill her, or this was going to kill her. She took a chance. She went outside of that, and they're the benefits. So, and like I said, there's two people that I know, but she's the more extreme version of what happened. So I think just if you can take it and they can give it you, then give it to you.
I think you remember telling me this woman got like quite a strong kind of medical grade of it.
Yeah. I mean, it was exactly what she should have got. It wasn't like some watered down vaping CBD oil. This stuff is you know, is the rocket fuel, you know, and it cost her a fortune. But she said, I'd rather pay for that and put up with the side effects and know that I'm going to live than pay a fortune for radiation and chemo and this lot and feel like shit and then potentially die. So, you know, she took everything into her own hands and survived, and that was that. Yeah,
because you drive down the road these days and everything's CBD, loads of so many shops. So she's not got it from like John's CBD shop.
No.
Okay.
I mean, Eccles is a fairly working class town, and I remember the days when you could drive down the road and all you would smell would be fish and chip shops. You know? Yeah. Because there would have been 10 chippies on Liverpool Road, and now you drive down and all you can smell is cannabis. I'm thinking, well, I don't know if that's a good change or not, but there's definitely an odour difference.
Yeah, so, it's. Cool. I mean, I've never lived there, but it's definitely a very unique place.
Oh, cosmopolitan.
It's got some characters.
Yeah, so cool.
You were talking about reminiscing then, kind of quote unquote back in the day. One of the things I think people probably want to know about is like how you got started in sport and in bodybuilding, things like that. So you obviously started off with rugby.
Do you want me to go back to the beginning?
Can do, mate. You're the guest.
I probably football when I was about 4. is the garden with my dad. My dad used to play football. He was a goalkeeper. Funny enough, because we're both short and we both play goalkeeper, which is ironic if you ask me, because most goalkeepers are about 6'4". So anyway, my dad was a bit taller than me. He was about 5'7".
Right.
So we started off playing football in the back garden, and that was good. Then I got into a little bit of athletics, and I used to live in a terraced housing street estate kind of thing. So you'd have multiple blocks of 12 houses, then you'd have an entry or a ginnel or in between, then another set of 12 houses and then a ginnel and a block. So we used to spend our summers timing each other from the house up, round, through the back ginnel, down the back of the houses, and come round and back to the front again. So that'd be like a lap.
Yeah.
So that was our version of the Olympics. So we used to run round and time each other. There's a big 5 or 6 of us individually running round. And like, you go, then you go, then you go, then you go. So
you don't see that anymore, do you? Like, I mean, whether it's just because you don't look for it, but like, I remember doing similar things when we were kids, and all the kids were older than me. So
yeah.
I remember just always being like struggling to keep up and stuff. And I remember all these runs being really hard, probably in comparison to everyone else's. But you just don't. I don't think you see kids doing that anymore, do you?
No, because I'd probably be 7, 8, 9, something like that. You know what I mean? Then we got a bit older, and there used to be a big field down the bottom, so we'd go down there and play football and cricket all day. During the summer holidays.
Yeah.
We used to take bottles of water with us, some packed sandwiches, and as soon as it started going dark and the street lights came on, you knew it was time to go home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we'd be out 12, 13 hours a day. In the summer, because it was safe. Half the street, all the kids, we were all roughly around the same age, go down to the bottom field, spend all day there, come back, have tea, and then you're knackered, you got to bed, and then that's it. So that was that. Then I went to probably secondary school, and that probably when I first started to play rugby. So I'd be about 13, 14 then.
So it was union?
No, league.
League, right, okay.
Yeah,
was it always league?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I like watching union, but I never played it.
Okay.
So, so that was my... secondary school was my main introduction to everything, really. Rugby, football, cricket, athletics, basketball. I like basketball, but obviously I was way too short for a basketball player. But I did enjoy that. I like the speed of it and the technicalities of it and stuff like that. So, but realistically, rugby and football were my main two. And then once I left secondary school, so I'd be about 15. That's when I was really fully involved in rugby league then. So I played that at a good level till probably 21, 22. Then I discovered women and drink and drugs, and took a sideways shift for about 7 or 8 years, I think. But I had started training by then as well, so I was still at the gym. And I was kind of still trying to make waves, but realistically I had slipped into the dark side.
Right.
So it did take me a little while to dig out of that. The reason being, I've been to a funeral today, but when I was probably early 20s, mid-20s, I was hanging around with a group of people that were probably destined not to have a long life, and at least 3, I would think, passed away before I'm 25, and at that point I thought, this is not an avenue I really want to be going down. So I kind of made a real conscious decision that I have to get out of this and I have to clean up and I have to straighten out, and that's realistically when I started going to the gym proper. So yeah, that's kind of it. So and that was, I did my first show in 1980, which I said was the O'Malley Classic, but I was only 18, 19 then.
Right.
So, but I was still drinking and taking drugs, but I was kind of on the margins of things. After that, I kind of took a downward slide. So if you think there's a correlation of time differences, there is, but like everything, there's always an overlap. Nothing's ever black and white, and nothing's ever straight lined. There's always things that kind of felt I could still function and still do other things, but I was still doing other things as well. And it was after that period that I really got into the bodybuilding, realistically. So I'm not going to say it saved my life. I'm not that dramatic, but it definitely was a big shift in my lifestyle.
Yeah, because I think from what I know of rugby, football, team sports, things like that, great example, George Best.
Yeah.
You can still drink, or people do still drink.
Oh, mate, well, when I was playing rugby and in my earlier years, when I was still, say, 13, 14, 15, and I was still at school, I played for several teams. And I was really good. I was in the A teams, and we used to play in the Northwest Alliance, I think that's what it was, or something like that, going back a long, long time now. So I used to play for the Open A teams, and these were in the 3rd division. So, I could hold my own even at that age, but I was really fast, really light, really fast, and I bounced well. So when I got hit by bigger people like you, I could veer off, or, I never really, touch wood, got that badly hurt. But I did get hurt once or twice. I broke my leg and I got my jaw snapped. But they were kind of... I still class them as minor injuries because they were bones, and bones heal real quick. I never snapped a ligament or a tendon or ACL or anything like that. So in that respect, I count myself as being fortunate.
Just a scratch.
Just a mere scratch, yeah. Come back, you bastard. All that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Should have seen the other guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I got into bodybuilding. And that was it, realistically. I just... I never really looked back or changed tack. I just realised I wasn't any good after 10 years. Well, after I did my first show, then I had a 10-year where I just thought, you know what, if you're going to do this, you have to do this properly. And that's when I would say that I really invested all my time and energy and effort into that. And then I did my next show would be 1991. And it was get me right. I think Yorkshire. It was in St George's Hall in Bradford, and it was a EFBB comp. And I'm not sure whether it was the North East or something like that. Whatever, not the North East Newcastle that end.
Right.
But it was that kind of Yorkshire
like
kind. It could be North Yorkshire qualifier. I can't remember now. So that was that, and I came second to a guy called Phil Dunn. Which it still qualified me to the British, so I went from there. Did I win that one? No, yes, I went to the British on that, but I didn't win. I used to find that I would do a year on, year off. Yeah. So a lot of my comps are like 92, 94, 96, 98. I think like I didn't used to do uneven years for some reason. So that's kind of where it went. So from there, I did that, and then went to the British, and I won that. And then I just kept kind of going back and playing around with lightweight, middleweight, working my way up, getting better, and then still do. At that time, you could still do other federations, and they wouldn't kick you out.
Yeah.
So I still did a lot of stuff with the EPF, and I did some other things. So I think I progressed up to 80 kilo in the EFBB, and that's where I won the master. I won the middleweights, and then I won the masters. But then I also won the British overall, which kind of
2004 when you won the overall.
So that allowed me to take my pro card, even though I could have took it earlier, because at that time you had to you had to win your weight class, but you could still take the thing. It's only when they changed it back again that you had to win the overall. There was only one winner then.
Yeah.
So I always like to say that when I won my pro card, I actually won it. Because I had to win my weight class, and then I competed against everybody else in the overall, and I was crowned overall. You know what I mean? So I beat everybody in my class and everybody else on that day. So nobody can turn around and say
miles harder to be the best bodybuilder in Britain at that point, because I think realistically, if you won the EFBB overall, people will know it now as a UKBFF. Since the UKBFF is kind of
imploded.
It's kind of imploded, hasn't it?
Yeah.
To win that, especially back then when it was a big thing, it was miles harder than like just winning like your weight class or whatever.
Yeah. So.
And I think you were the best bodybuilder in Britain then if you won that, because even though now bodybuilders are and can be great, I just think like back then when the pro card stuff was all EFBB centered, I think realistically the EFBB guys were better, weren't they?
It depends really what you want to look at. I like NABA physiques because I think they were always slightly bigger. They may not have been unconditioned, but they were all, bodybuilding's about building size.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a dieting competition, and it's not necessarily an aesthetics competition. It's about being big, being round, being full, being conditioned to a degree, not overly vascular, because vascular is not really a sign of condition. It just means that you're vascular. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I've seen plenty of guys with veins popping everywhere, but there's not a shred of detail in the thighs.
They can even be in the off season, can't they?
You know what I mean? I've seen some builders, you know, brickies with forearms you die for, you know what I mean? And they're vascular, but the rest of them not up to par. Yeah. So, you know, it's all very subjective, but I liked a lot of NABBA physiques because they were they looked strong. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they probably weren't as conditioned, or they weren't as this and that, but they still had a lot to offer. You know what I mean?
And I think maybe even more so towards like your day, when I hate to say your day, but like your time competing in bodybuilding at your peak, like guys like Charles Claremont, he was a NABBA guy, wasn't he, when he won the NABBA Universe?
Yeah, and I think he did do became an IFBB pro or EFBB pro as well, I think.
Yeah, he did.
He switched over.
But
he had an awesome physique. You know, when people talk about golden eras of physiques, there's been lots of British guys that, if they had been American, would have done a lot more damage. The fact is that they weren't American, and you know as well as I do, bodybuilding is very political. Yeah. You know, especially when you get to bigger stages and you're out there and about. But Claremont, he had it all. He had a tiny waist, he had big quad sweeps, he had lovely separation, he had a big wide back, he had good shoulders. You know what I mean? You can look at him and go, that's something to aspire to. You know, and he was just one of many. You know, I cannot give you another name because my brain's fuddled. But, you know, there were plenty around at that time that had that look, you know, and you just think, where are we now kind of thing in retrospect?
Yeah, I think,
you know, as a bodybuilding, I don't want to get in this argument, discussion, debate that people are having at the moment saying bodybuilding's not like it was and this and that isn't like it was. But neither's Formula One car racing, neither's cycling, neither's anything else. You know, if you look at another sport and look back 20 years, 30 years, and then look at the athletes now that are doing stuff, or look at the footballers that are playing, or look at the rugby players that are playing. I mean, at the moment in time, we've got the Rugby Union World Cup. Now, if we go back 30 years and look at the size of the forwards and the backs that were playing then, and look how much bigger, how much faster, how much stronger they are now, it's a totally different game. Yeah. But I was watching it, and they were saying that the China and Scotland game had 50 million people watching it. 50 million. Now, it's not the same game as it was 30 years ago, but we didn't have 50 million watching it 30 years ago. No, so nobody's complaining about that. So accept that bodybuilding has changed, the athletes have changed, the pressure on those athletes has changed, the food that they eat changed, the drugs that they train with it changed. So they're not going to look the same. Whether is that better or worse? Not for me to say, but in my opinion, it's not better. But you can't take that away from them athletes, because they're doing exactly what the athletes before were doing and the ones before them were doing. And they're trying to be the best they can be. And that's it. That's all it is. It's whether the public judges them for them, or whether the 9 judges in front judge them if that's what they want. Yeah. You know, it's not the athlete's fault. If they look at the women, you know, Iris Kyle and people like this, stunning, fantastic physiques. And what they've done with them over the last 5-6 years, they've changed the goalposts. Yeah, massively. Sorry, Iris, we don't want that anymore. Sorry, we don't want this anymore. Sorry, we want you to look like this. And it's like, well, what do these women do? They've been doing that for 20 years.
They're going to be out of the sport because there's a lot that's irreversible. Yeah. About what the judges want now.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, oh, well, I've been training to do something, and now you've just handicapped me for no real reason than it is because you can sell that better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'll happen way more so in bodybuilding than it could really do in any other sport.
Yeah, to a degree. Yeah. You know, so, you know.
When you said that then, it kind of made me laugh because I rarely watch any bodybuilding stuff anymore. Still do, but rarely. And I was looking for something to watch on YouTube last night. Well, believe it or not, I was doing some cardio on the stationary bike. And I came across...
Stationary being the operative word there. Yeah. I was sat on a bike watching telly, is what you mean.
Wasn't pedaling.
Go
on. So, and one of the first suggested things that came up was they were doing a debate, Dave Palumbo, Fouad Abiad, I don't know if he still competes, Lee Priest and Luke Sando, and they were all debating about whether today's bodybuilding is better or the 90s bodybuilding, because everyone says it. Like, I know Dorian Yates just seems to always say that the 90s was better, and he doesn't really ever seem to let that go. And it just made me laugh how like we came a video which I would just rarely watch. It just kind of came up in conversation, the same subject line then. But yeah, you do hear it a lot, don't you, in bodybuilding? That very same thing. And like you say, it's not as simple as just saying this was better, that was better. It's kind of the climate changes, and what's available to you changes.
You have to view everything in context. You just can't take. It's like would Tyson have beat Muhammad Ali?
Yeah.
You know, it's never going to happen. Why have a discussion? People come up to me all the time and say certain things about, would he have beat them, or would they have been this and that? Is it going to happen? No, I'm not prepared to get into the discussion.
Yeah,
it's irrelevant. It won't prove anything. It doesn't. You know what? If you're in the pub and you're pissed, and the two of you want to have an argument that's not going to make any difference, knock yourself out. Right? Yeah. But in the reality of things, it's never going to happen. You're never going to kind of work it out. So I just don't have them conversations.
Yeah, I think certain things like maybe in powerlifting, the whole knee wraps thing, and like kind of comparing, I would say like guys like Ed Cohen to the modern guys. I think you can like legitimately say that Ed Cohen really was that good, because like I remember seeing a video of him wrapping his knees, and there were just these really pathetic knee wraps. And to say that, like, I mean, I'll be quite honest, I don't know how many of his records have been broken, maybe, yeah, I don't really know, but to say that he hit some of the totals which maybe have taken God knows how long to break back then, with the equipment that was available to him back then, which does give you a lot more with the version of what it is today. I think that is stuff like that is really impressive when you do put it into context.
Yeah, I mean, apart from the plates, I don't see there being anything that stayed the same.
No.
A plate is a plate is a plate. It doesn't matter whether it's Ivanko or whoever. It's 25 kilo, it's 50 kilo, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, if it's calibrated, it's calibrated.
Calibrated, okay. Bars, totally different story.
Yeah.
Because you now have all these whippy bars, you have these thinner bars, you have these buffalo bars, you have this, that, and the other. So all of these things can make a difference to you setting a record, whether you're benching or squatting or deadlifting. Knee wraps, like I say, Ed Cohen probably had, I don't know, elasticated knee bandages that you put on when you've got a sore leg. You know, you wrap it on and it keeps it warm.
And he wasn't even wrapping them hard when I saw him on this video. He was just like not even concentrating, just kind of winding them around his leg.
And now you look at some of the knee wrap that you have now, you know, where they impregnated with metal, or they got Kevlar in them, or they got, you know, you can stretch them that much. You can get 27 wraps around your knee on them, you know. It's still 2 meters, but it will stretch to 16 foot long, you know. That, you know, and these things now are so efficient that I think
people should be better.
Yeah, but the thing is that the elite lifters, fine, they're going to put 1,000 pounds on their back. They're going to need that to bend them knee wraps.
Yeah.
If you give them to a 56 kilo woman or a 75 kilo guy or even an 82 kilo guy, and he puts them on, he needs so much weight on his back to bend them so he can get to parallel, that probably his back or his shoulders are going to give way. So it's too efficient.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But intermediates and novices, I'll have a pair of them because he wears them, or so-and-so uses them, I'm going to use them ones. Well, that's great, but they're them, and they're at the top. It's like chapter 27. You're on chapter 1. You know? Get something that you can use that will benefit you, that you can... It's not going to throw you out of line. It's going to assist your lift. That's the whole point, to assist the lift. It's not to do it for you.
Yeah.
You still have to control that bar path, whether it's a squat or a deadlift or a bench. So if you put something on that you can't keep your physical natural line because these things are so tight you're having to move around it, how is that going to benefit you?
Yeah, I agree with that, because I see a lot of girls, and I'm not just singling out one or two, like a lot of girls who at relatively the start of the powerlifting career are given like 2.5, 3 meter knee wraps, which are the same as 2.5, 3 meter knee wraps that, like, I don't know, I would use, or Sam Bollins would use, or, you know, you'd use, or Tom Martin, or whoever would use. And it's kind of like, well, she's in those knee wraps already, and she's not even, can she not just like wear some maybe like slightly less stiff ones, just so she can like build a base?
But even knee sleeves.
Yeah.
I think they don't. I'm not far off in a knee sleeve that I am in my knee wraps.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you get a youngish lifter or a novice lifter, beginner lifter, whatever you want to describe them as, and you put them into a good pair of knee sleeves, that's going to do the job. They're a lot more comfortable. They're easier to get on and off. Well, to a degree, if you get the right size, obviously. But they're not going to. It's not going to overwhelm you.
No.
I've never met anybody that said, "Oh, I can't bend my knee in these knee sleeves; they're far too tight." You know what I mean? Unless you're at a level where you're literally putting on a medium-sized knee sleeve, but realistically, you've got 2XL legs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it takes 10 people to get them on for you. In that case, then it's a difference. But most people, if they get a nice set of knee sleeves, whatever make you want to wear, will give you 2 or 3 years worth of development in them.
Yeah.
You know, from beginning to middle to where you can squat a weight that you think, you know what, realistically, this is now a good weight for me.
Yeah.
I can control it. I can hold it. Whether you're a low bar squatter or a high bar squatter, your body can accommodate the weight that you've got on that bar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely agree with that. Like, just build the rawest strength you possibly can when you're a beginner, male or female. And yeah, knee sleeves don't give that much. I mean, I've even like the triple ply Odin ones, like they do give something. They give something. I've got a pair. And I would like use those to warm up in when I'm doing like a rap session. Yeah. But even so, like, you're not getting that much out of them. But I think like the
it puts you in a position to learn.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is
gives you like
what
that
am I
cue.
learning from this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. So that's gonna and they're gonna get to a point where they constrict behind your knee.
Yeah.
So obviously you can't go super deep in them. So you're gonna go, okay, so that's roughly about depth then.
Yeah.
You know, and as long as you have somebody looking at, you're in, you're not in, whatever. But that pinch behind your knee tells you that you're there or thereabouts. You know what I mean? So once you get to that point, you go, okay, then maybe look at a mild pair of, wraps. You don't need these super fucking, you've got to sweat putting them on.
Yeah.
You don't need to be that hard at that level.
No.
I don't think. Well, you know what? This is my opinion. I'm open to debate if anybody wanted to disagree or agree with me. Just my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, like, from my experience, I think the stiffer wraps are probably... If you can use them, if you level that you can use them a bit better, but at the same time, I've used 2.5 meter the Inza Zs, which are like an original wrap, like a nice soft wrap, Titan RPMs, which are the black and orange ones, which are again quite an intermediate novice wrap, and like I squatted 325 in those, and to be fair, after 2 years of squatting 325 in those, it went over to a stiffer wrap, the Phantom's like fucking crazy. And I squatted 335. Fair enough, I probably could have squatted more, but like I just think it shows that like that might be a bit more individual, but it's not like you should dismiss these intermediate wraps, because I think just basically what you've said is I agree.
If you're at the top end of your weight class, whatever it is, and you've been competing for a little while, and you're an elite athlete. Shall we use the word elite? I don't know how to describe powerlifters, because somebody said to me the other day, he said, somebody was speaking to me about certain things. I said, my coach said that, in order to be a professional powerlifter, you need to be squatting X and Y and Z. And I said, can I just stop you there? And he went, what? I said, as far as I'm aware, there is no such thing as a professional powerlifter.
No.
I said, nobody that powerlifts earned their money through power. It's not like professional tennis or football where they're paid a salary to train or whatever. I said, most powerlifters work, or they run a gym, or they do this, that and the other. I said, nobody as a powerlifter stands alone as that occupation that pays their mortgage.
No,
so
I think unless you're government, unless you're in a country where your government actually,
but then you're a paid employee. You're not a professional athlete as such, are you?
No, I guess not, because even in the UK, if you do the Olympics and you're in a different sport and you're funded, you're still an amateur sport, isn't it?
Yeah, you're paid. You're paid by the government, so therefore you're not a professional. A professional is somebody paid to do that job full time.
Yeah.
Professionals are things like solicitors and lawyers and doctors. That's my understanding of a professional.
Yeah, powerlifting is an amateur sport by its nature.
Yeah.
But I think the classification thing you were talking about, I think there are some classifications, but like personally, I don't agree with them.
No, I just think, if you're if you're 2 times, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5 times body weight in anything, I think that classes you as being up there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's a figure that you can genuinely say, and look at and go, records are set at that percentage of body weight, 3 times body weight, 4 times body weight. You can, you're in the top 10 of most things if you can do 3 times this or 4 times that, so.
Yeah, I think that's a level where you can start looking at these stiffer, tougher reps and stuff. And I think the example that I gave of me being able to squat well in those less stiff reps might have just been individual.
Yeah.
I think there probably is quite a discrepancy in between the two, but I think it was because it was individual because I could get those around my legs more times, and not everyone would have that problem of not getting enough reps.
No, you do have particularly big knees.
Yeah, I think that's...
So, that's the point. But then it becomes more personal to people. I think powerlifting... And I think you very much view it this way as well, in that it's how good can you be.
Yes,
I know you change targets and we all change numbers and we all want to be number one and this and that and that, but that's not the driving force in the gym. When you come to train, and when I trained, it's not about what's so-and-so doing. I need to be benching this today, or I need to be squatting this today. It's what's my program saying today? How many reps am I doing with this weight? How many sets am I doing? And did I get it? And that's the thing. It's all about the numbers, isn't it, to a degree?
Yeah.
I say that because I know you are very much like that, and I'm not. But I still have the idea that I should be doing... If I'm doing volume, I'm doing volume. If I'm doing sets of 3, I'm doing sets of 3. If I'm doing sets of 5, I'm doing sets of 5. I might want to change that once I've done my primary work. My assistance and accessory stuff might be slightly different than yours would be, because I still hanker to that bodybuilding type thing where I like to do sets of 20 because I like to throw up every now and then. It's just because that's what challenges me. You know what I mean? So it's not, is somebody else going to do a set of 20? No. So why are you doing it? Because I like to do sets of 20. But I also like to do singles,
Yeah.
So I think that's where it's at, is what makes you happy. If you can be happy doing what you're doing and you can still be competitive, then I think you've made it, because you're happy and you're successful.
Yeah. And when you said kind of it's very much in relation to yourself, do you mean kind of just going for your own potential? And if that kind of dictates that you are the best in the world, then it dictates that you're the best in the world.
Yeah, I can only think of once, I think, where I really had to look at the board and think, I need to pull this to beat him so I can be world champion.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that was in Las Vegas in 2016, I think, something like that. But 9 times out of 10, it's like you say, I was fortunate that I was in a class where I knew most of the times I could win. So I could pick and choose what I really wanted to do. If I wanted to have a bigger squat, I would have a big squat on that day. If I wanted
you could go for PBs rather than having to play tactical.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I could pick and choose, and as long as I could work it to my advantage, kind of thing. Where I think if we go back a little bit, I'm not quite sure of the history of powerlifting because I haven't been in it for that long, but I've got a very, very good mate who used to compete as a very, very good 75 kilo squatter, and he was so technical and so tactical that he would literally be putting 1.5 kilo on or 2 kilo. You know what I mean? He would watch and he'd be waiting for the lifter in front to see what he did, and he'd be going, right, I'm going to change my lift. You know what I mean? So, and he was right on it. You know what I mean? So, and nowadays, that doesn't happen. People turn up saying, I'm going to lift this, I'm going to lift this, I'm going to that. And you go, yeah, okay, so you get your first one in, might get your second, and bomb your third. Because you had a figure in your head that you wanted to do. And it wasn't about winning. It was about knocking your PB up or knocking this up. And it's like, but you have next competition or the next 10 competitions to get that. If you do everything now, you're like a firefly. You'll come in very, very bright. You'll have 3 or 4 good years, maybe 5, and then you'll be gone. You know what I mean? And it's like, just be a little bit more cautious. Build slow. It's better to gain 2.5 than lose 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just knock your way up. And I've seen it quite a lot where, because me and Tan run Tattooed and Strong, and we do the no dumbbells, and Tan's a ref, so we go around to see quite a lot of comps and this and that. And people could do better, and they could win more things if they just chose to fucking weights better.
Yeah, if they tried to go 9 for 9, you mean? If they actually tried to like...
Or even just watch what that person's doing.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen people thinking, right, you only need to do this. You know, you put your weight in, you can drop it if you want to do. You don't have to go for that weight. They've just failed that. Bring your weight down. Just, you know, you don't have to put that. You can knock 10 kilo off and you'll win. Yeah, but I'll put that in. Yeah, but you might not get that. Yeah, but I'll put it in. Okay. And then they've gone and missed it. And so not only have they missed the 10 kilo that they put in, they've missed the 2.5 that would have won them, but they go back to what the second lift was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you've lost 30 kilo maybe off your total, instead of just saying, well, you know what, I'll lose 5 kilo off my top end and I'll get this in and I'll win and I'll get just chasing numbers all the time. Every competition is not a world championships.
Yeah, I think I might be a little bit hypocritical if I like vehemently agreed with that too much, because I'd probably be the person who like wouldn't listen to the advice on the day. Then I'd look at where I went wrong and then do it again the next time. But
you know what, I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing, and if people want to do that, that's fine. I'm not here to judge or whatever. It's just, I think that you could extend your life as a lifter by just playing a little bit more smarter, and you could probably have more white lights against your name than not. And I have nobody in mind when I'm saying these things, because I've seen it across the board.
So many
male,
people.
female, different federations. And even when you're watching some of the stuff, there are certain federations that class to be better than every other federation. And you watch some of their podcasts and their live streams, and you think, why did they go for that? You just seen the lifter beforehand miss it up, and you go, right, I'm going to... And it's like... So,
Yeah, but I certainly think that getting all 9 lifts is like definitely the best way to win a competition as well, isn't it? Because like you've just
done everything you've done then.
Just go within your own potential so that you know you're not going to fail your last lift.
Yeah.
And it's always going to be a gamble anyway. You don't want to you never want to play it too safe.
No, I mean, like you say, you don't want to be too cautious, and you can on the day bring your weight down, but you can also put it up. Yeah. If you feel that it's going stonkingly well for you, and you think, today whatever you put on that bar, I'm going to lift it because I feel good. The last 2 or 3 lifts have gone really well. I've got a feel for the bar. Everything's sweet, and you can go for it. And that's how you make PBs, and that's how things get broken, because on that day, everything just clicks.
You're just on fire.
It's just on fire, and you know what? You can never predict when that day is. I can only give you one clear-cut example in my whole life when I've done stuff where I said, I'm going to win. And that was when I took the British in 2004. And I'm talking to Flex Lewis and John Hodgson. And John Hodgson said, how are you feeling? I said, I'm feeling really good. I said, I'm going to win the middleweight. I said, I'm going to take the overall. And he went, really?
This was on the day?
This was on the day.
Right.
Yeah. And he looked at me and went, really? I said, yeah, really. I said, I can feel it. I said, I'm gonna beat everybody today.
They were both competing with you on that day as well,
Flex
weren't they?
He was on a junior. I'm not sure if John was actually competing that day, but he was there.
Because he won his pro card after you, did he?
Yeah. And
right.
Flex Lewis won the juniors on the same day.
Right.
Luckily, juniors couldn't compete in the open class, because I think he might have beat me then. I think I had him on condition, but he might have got me on a bit.
I don't think he would have beat you back then.
No.
As a junior, I don't think he would have. But obviously,
some people said he would, but we'll never know. Hypothetical question. But I remember, and that was one of the only days that I really can honestly say, hand on heart, that I knew I wouldn't lose. And for it, I cannot tell you where that confidence came from. I just knew that my prep had been really good. Everything else had been really good, and I just had this unfathomable confidence, and it proved to be right. But I couldn't tell you where that confidence came from. I just knew that on that day I was going to win. So, but that's the only case I can give you in all of my life where I've been that confident about winning things. Even though I've won other stuff, I can't say I have ever been that confident about winning anything since or before.
And I think as well, like looking at the pictures, I think that was probably your best look, ever. Maybe that or the British Grand Prix. I think that's when you achieve your peak size.
The competition I really where I looked, me personally, I thought I looked really good when I did the NABBA Universe.
Was that before or after?
That was after.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so that was probably around 2008, something like that.
Right, okay.
I've got a few pictures.
I
not
have
many,
seen the
but
pictures, yeah.
And I just I may not have been as sharp, but I was so much fuller, rounder, vascular, and I thought I looked really good. I felt really good, and I thought I could do well here, but I didn't. So I don't know whether that was politics played into that, or just I deluded myself thinking that I was better than I was, kind of thing. But a lot of people came up to me after that and said you was robbed and stuff like that. But you can't change things. But I just know I've got 2 or 3 photographs from that show, and some of them are, I think, the best pictures I've ever of me, if you know what I mean. But I've only got a handful. So, but yeah, that was probably what my personal thinking was my best look.
So from competing in bodybuilding,
Mm.
obviously there's a lot there to go over.
Yeah.
It was a massively long career.
Yeah.
First of all, you mentioned that you started, your first one was in 1980.
82.
82, sorry.
Yeah. What
82.
O'Malley Spring Classic.
And then it was, I guess, 9 years later in 1991 that you did the EFBB show, the qualifier. I remember hearing you mention in the past that to get from 90% to 100% where you became really good was just such a monumental jump. But it made all the difference.
Yeah.
So what do you really feel kind of, because you kind of were quite really average at your first show. What do you feel like you did that really made? It's really, I guess that's a really difficult question to ask.
The thing is, I just did more of the same. I literally just ate, slept, and breathed it. I probably ate more food. I trained harder, and to be fair, I probably took more drugs.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's the end of it. And it's kind of, people say, "Oh, I only did this, I only did that." I can honestly say that in the middle of my career, by the time I got to the middle, I'd probably tried everything that you could.
Right.
Not lots of everything, but just everything, because I needed to know. And people were some people to me were very honest, and some people were very disingenuous. And I thought, well, fuck it. It's like, when you go to the bar and the barman says, "What do you want to drink?" And you go, "No, I've never had a drink." So I said, "Oh, well, we'll start with this then, and we'll just go across the top line." So you have a rum, a vodka, a gin, a brandy, something else. And in the end, you're pissed. Okay, but you've tried everything. So I don't like that, but I did like that. And so that's what I did with drugs. It was like, okay, let's try Cypionate, and let's try Nandrolone, and let's try Boron, and let's try this, and let's try that. So over the course of probably 3 or 4 years, I would say I probably took everything that was available at that time. And remember, in them days, a lot of the drugs were kosher.
Yeah.
They were pharmaceutical grade. You knew where they were coming from because they still had a chemist's name on the packet where they've been robbed from, or from where they've been imported from. So you knew it was genuine. So you didn't think, you weren't as worried about what you was putting in, because the volume and the quality were the quantity were the problem. Not for me, but for other people. But the quality in them days was never an issue, because you knew it was going to be pharmaceutical grade. So you could look in the books. I'm trying to think of it. Dan Duquesne.
Yeah.
Remember his underground steroid handbook?
Yeah.
Things like that. That was one of them revelatory things that until he did that. And remember, there was no computers, there was no internet, so you couldn't just download something or go online and Google it. You had to find books like that, and Llewellyn's as well. Llewellyn's anabolic.
William Llewellyn, yeah. Publishes one every year.
Yeah. So when that first came out, I had that. So you kind of drift between them and go, okay, this is what we do, and this is how many of them, and that's how much of that. And so you go, okay, I weigh 200 pounds, so therefore I need this, that, and the other. So you kind of work out what your cocktail is going to be. And then you play around with it, and you do an off-season, see how big you get, and then you do a cutting cycle and see how it works. And then, okay, I got that big and I got that lean. Okay, I'll try this. I got that much bigger. I didn't get any leaner. So you kind of have to work out what you're doing, and there were no gurus, there was nobody to reference, there was nobody to go and see. So you had to judge yourself and the mirror, and hopefully you've got a good training buddy They're going to go, fucking hell, mate, you look shit. Oh, wow, you look really good. Oh, wow, you're getting strong. You know, so that's the only feedback you got. You know, so
what did you tend to like settle on? What did you tend to like in the off season?
Good question. And for life of me, I can't remember. I didn't like Cypronate. Cypronate really made me bloaty and stuff like that. So I tried that once and I just got really watery really quick. So
right.
that was a quick find for me. That I tried it, didn't like it, so that was just gone out of the bin. Deca and Sus is standard for everybody. If you can't get big on Deca and Sus, then you're not going to get big on anything. You know what I mean? D-ball, you used to be really good D-ball way back then. So you'd need like 2 or 3 D-ball a day, and that was it. I tried an Apollon and things like that, but they were too harsh for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Put a lot of water on, but as soon as you stop, it just disappeared.
I didn't like an Apollon. Like, no. I remember, like, within days, like, I just found that it must be quite harsh on the liver, like like
and headaches
kidneys,
and stuff like that.
Yeah, I started like pissing like fucking brown, basically. Brown or orange, like within the first few days. I thought
that's not a good sign. No, when it changes that quick, it's not a good sign. So so realistically, then I would imagine I just stayed on the standard. To be fair, a lot of Prima, Anavar, stuff like that. A lot of girly drugs because I'm not really a big guy, so I didn't need to smash the test. Tren I used quite a bit of.
So that was pre-contest. So
pre-contest stuff like I
Prima
never
Anavar
used it.
Tren.
I used to use moderate amount of growth, so I'll be like 2 IU every other day, something like that.
Yeah.
But then I was getting that from a pharmaceutical grade as well, so I didn't need any more than that. You know what I mean? And I only used it pre-contest, and for me, it just kept my fullness there, so I could go quite low on the carbs, get really lean, but not really lose any muscle mass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So and that was it. So once I'd got rid of the rubbish, then you really only lift with like 3 or 4 different things, and that was it. I just found the 3 or 4 things that worked, and just I'll just stay with them, and that was it. So then once you've got your drugs right, it's just about getting your eating right and doing your dieting and just keeping it the same. It's boring. It's so boring.
Yeah.
That's what most people will tell you. Oh, I can do this and that. I go, yeah, but you're just lying. You cannot eat a chocolate bar and do this, and you cannot do that and do this. It has to be this. Unless you've got a metabolic rate that's far above everybody else's, you have to eat 5-6 food sources a day for 10 weeks, and you'll get lean. If you're not doing that, if you're having more than that, then you're not going to be as lean as you think you are, or you're not going to get as lean as you want, or you're deluding yourself.
So in terms of like dosages, can you remember like of the Tren, the Primo and the Anavar? Like,
no,
I know you didn't used to take a ridiculous amount.
I used to use a lot of Parabolon.
And that's like a middle ground Tren, isn't it? Like a long acting Tren.
And that was a mil, but it was 76 mil per mil of active ingredient.
Yeah.
And I would have like 1 of them every 3 days.
Right.
So that was good. I remember being really hard and vascular on that. Viramone, that's the name from the past. See, a lot of these drugs now you just can't get because they don't exist, or they're counterfeited to, they don't really do what they're supposed to do.
The underground labs don't make them, really, do they either?
No. But Parabolon is one of the only drugs that have been proven to make you psychotic. I think the maximum dosage the advice was 226 mil per week. So yeah, I was in there. I didn't do any more than that. I was mad enough, so I didn't think I needed to make myself any madder.
But you didn't do like crazy dosages, did you? I don't think.
No. I didn't need to because I responded quite well to what I did, and like I say, I had to train really hard, and good or bad, I can starve really well. So if I cut my foods right down, then I can deal with hunger pains and not a problem. And it's kind of like, some they crack and then you have to binge. Yeah. It's like I just sit there going, yeah, I'm hungry, but but I'm here because I'm here. I put myself in a position, so I just dealt with it. You know what I mean? So that wasn't an issue.
Do you like the idea of deprivation? Like, do you feel like it can almost putting yourself into a situation where you have to discipline yourself for a long period of time can like make you a not better person, but it can just harden you over time. Do you like the deprivation aspect of it?
I always said to people that if you could do a bodybuilding diet from start to finish and get on stage, you will find out more about yourself in that period of time than doing anything else. You could run a marathon, you can climb a mountain, you can do all sorts of different things and put yourself into extreme situations. But in either one of them other experiences, you never restrict your food.
No.
Yeah. Pentathletes and triathletes, 7, 8, 10,000 calories a day. Yeah, because they can. So they can do what they want to do, but they can put the food in.
Yep.
As a bodybuilder, and even as a powerlifter, when you're on a cut, you can't put in what you want. You have to have, this is my diet, this is the number of calories that I can have, in whichever order you want to chop it up, whatever way you want to make your diet, whatever you want to eat. But that's them calories. Because if you're not in a deficit to a degree, you will not lose weight, you will not get lean, you will not create that anabolic window where everything is primed to building muscle tissue and lean muscle tissue. So that's what makes it harder. Not the fact that you can go out there and train, leave yourself on the pitch or on the track or whatever, and then you go home and you can eat whatever you want. You can't do that as a bodybuilder. You leave everything in the gym. You know, you've thrown up, you've sweated, you've ripped your calluses off, and you reward yourself with some chicken and rice and maybe a bit of broccoli. And then 2 hours later, you can do it again. You know, so, and that's what makes it hard. That's what tempers the brain, I think, you know, and your psychological edge. That's what I think that gives you. You know, I'm not saying other sports aren't equally tough or hard. It's just the dieting aspect of it that stands it alone, I think.
Yeah, and you do tend to feel very differently towards the end of a contest prep. Just in yourself, it is a very strange feeling.
Yeah. Everybody will say to you, if you're in a relationship with a bodybuilder of, you know, of any degree or caliber, their other half will suffer massively because they lose somebody from 6 weeks out. That person that they're married to or going out with or having a relationship with becomes somebody different. And like I said right at the beginning, I think it's almost like a voluntary mental state. You put yourself in that position because you choose to put yourself in that position. It's only you can decide at the end of the day whether or not it was worth it.
Yeah.
You know, was the cost worth the price of a plastic trophy? Was the cost worth the adulation of a few people for a little while? Was the cost worth sacrificing your family for, your job for? Only you can answer that. But I can say that when I did it, it was.
Yeah.
Because I was selfish at that time. And now I look back on things and I think, should I really have done all of that to jump for that? And in hindsight, probably not, because I'm not a millionaire. I don't have a big car. I don't have this. I don't have that. And even the memories fade. And within a decade or a generation, you've forgotten because the next best thing comes along. The next T-shirt boy or the next, you know, glamour body comes along, and you're just forgotten. Unless you make it to the very, very pinnacles of it, then you just garbage on the beach. You're just discarded with the rest, you know. And that's where people struggle, is because we are selfish and we're also very fragile, people in general. So when you've had a tiny little bit of fame or success and it's taken away from you, and you know, I say about the guys at the beginning that were institutionalized at work, they never planned to not work, never, because it wasn't in their side. They couldn't project 40 years in front when they were 15 and they got a job for life. They never thought, what am I going to do when I'm 60 and I retire, or 65 when I retire? You know, that was their lot. And a lot of these Instagram people, Facebook people, they're putting themselves in that position where they're not even going to be anywhere close to that successful, but they're seeking that adoration for being average.
Yep.
And 90% of these people are no more than average. They will never be more than average. But they're seeking the adulation of a superstar.
some of them are getting it as well through
They might well do,
marketing,
but they're only
aren't they?
getting the adulation of other people who are less than average.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the bar, instead of rising, is actually lowering to a common denominator, which actually the people that are out there are getting devalued. The good people are getting devalued because the other bits, they're being put into a higher position than they actually warrant, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely.
And not to sing the praises of me or anybody else or whatever, it's you look with a vision and eyesight and whatever, and you can see it, and you just look around and see what people are doing, how people are behaving, and you're thinking, you know, you deserve a good slap. You know what I mean? And that's the end of it. You're just like a spoilt child. You know, you might as well have a tantrum, fall on the floor and kick your legs in the air and go, give me, give me, give me. No, you came last. You don't get a fucking medal. You came last or third or whatever. You don't deserve it, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's strange how a lot of people can't see through those Instagram personas as well.
But the thing that the people looking at it are the same as them, and they think they're for the great. I want that. What, you want to be as successful as that numbwit? Why don't you just look above that and be more successful, be better than them? You know, don't try and be the same as them. Be better.
Yeah, and kind of realise that it's the little short-term dopamine hits that Instagram likes give you that will never, ever, ever fulfill you.
Like smoking a cigarette. You have a cigarette, great, nicotine hit. 20 minutes later, need another one. You know? So here's your Instagram hit. You know, 56 hits a day, like a pack of 6, isn't it? Yeah. Well, have another packet.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And going back to what you've just said then, was it worth it for what you did? In terms of like the actual long-term goal achieving journey that you were orientated towards, it probably was in that way, because it wasn't like you did not do it for adulation. Because I've seen people, like I've personally seen people come up to you and be like, "Oh, you're great, you're great, you're great," and you do not know how to respond to it. You're just kind of like, "Thanks." Right? Do you know what I mean? Because you can tell that you did it for you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, Instagram wasn't around back then.
No,
Maybe
no.
Facebook might have just been getting started, but it wasn't anything, was it?
No, I think we just kind of, in that respect, I think it was YouTube that kind of came along, and at the time we kind of hammered that quite a lot. But if I want to be in the same position now and I started YouTube as I did then, I'd be well off, because you can monetize things now and stuff like that. And I've got certain videos well over 1 million hits on certain videos, 800,000, 700,000.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I posted it once. One of my, I think it was a shoulders or bicep video, and I was watching it, it went ding, 1 million and 2 hits. So I screenshotted it and posted it. Yeah, made 1 million. You know what I mean? And so that would have kind of, nowadays I could have monetized that, and you know, I probably wouldn't have this conversation, or we might be on my yacht. Yeah. So things have definitely changed. But hey, that's just the way things go, innit? You know, there's nothing you can do about it. The people before me that have been far more successful and had even less fame, fortune and adoration, you know, and they probably didn't seek it either, you know what I mean? But you kind of look at what is available nowadays, you know. There's a guy that comes into the gym called Paul, another guy called Paul, who cycles.
Right.
You'll probably know if you see him. Anyway, and he always goes on about, there's a woman called Beryl Burton, and she's like in the 1950s, 60s, and she was this housewife, and she had one of these old-fashioned rally racing bikes, and she used to go out cycling, and she beat the tar out of all the guys. She set records for distance, for time, for speeds. And there was one point, I can't remember who the male cyclist was, and she was out in this race, and she was racing with this guy, and he's like, and he's going on, and she's there next to him. How are you doing? And all this, and he's like looking at her, and he's trying to kick on a bit, and she's stood there next to me. She says, "Yeah, I've got some of these dolly mixtures or whatever." She gave him some of these sweets, and he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Anyway, I've got to go now." Kicked on, and just burnt him off. And apparently, he was a world champion. and she just obliterated him. And I'll have to find out who it was now. But
I actually know the guy who you mean now, this Paul chap.
Yeah.
I mean, I had loads of conversations with him over the years,
Yeah.
just very brief conversations, and now I finally know what it's called.
Yeah. Yeah. But so this woman called Beryl Reid, and she was phenomenal, you know, but nobody gave her the time of day. I think she struggled getting into cycling clubs because it was all male. Oh, you can't do that, you're a woman, and then she just burnt their asses off. You're like, okay, see you, eat my tyres, you know.
And you do get guys like that today, phenomenal powerlifters, phenomenal.
You know, like we said very, very early on, you know, am I the strongest, this, that, and the other? There could be a guy out there who's never picked up a weight that could just blow me into the ground. And that's, I'm just
can't be asked with Facebook or Instagram.
Well, he's just maybe never even got there. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm just fortunate that I've not come across him.
Right.
So, cool. There we go.
So speaking of bodybuilding, or probably like before we get off the subject, two kind of pretty big things, or standout things to me, because obviously I followed these guys. You competed against the likes of Ronnie Coleman and Marcus Rule. You competed against many good people, but
when you say competed, I was actually on stage with them. I wouldn't actually say I didn't really compete. I mean, I think at that time Ronnie Coleman was 7 stone heavier than me. You know what I mean? So it kind of puts it in context that I was on stage with him at the same time. Did I compete against him? No, I was there. I was, you know, Marcus Rule, Chris Cormier, Chris Dim, a Spanish guy, I can't remember his name. You know, so a few other good people kind of thing. And, it was an experience to look at people that big, you know, and just think, that's bodybuilding, that is. Yeah.
That was the 2004 British Grand Prix, right?
Yeah. Just mind-blowing. You know, I made changes from amateur to pro that I thought were, for me, you know, I look at people like Flex Lewis now and the shorter guys and where they've gone on to and things like that. But then when you stood next to Ronnie and Marcus and Chris Cormier and that, and you look at the amount of mass that these people carry, and you just think, you know what? I'm not even not in the park. I'm not even in the fucking same state or country. Or they are so far away from what I would have been even at my best. And if I'd have done everything right forever, I would never have got that kind of mass and size and stuff on. You know, so it's humbling in that respect. You look at them and you go, "There's a reason he had 8 Olympias." You know, so
yeah. Obviously, Ronnie was phenomenal. I think you've been quite humble there in terms of the fact that you did have stuff that they didn't have. In terms of your structure and your shape, it was basically kind of unflawed. Whereas like when you get a certain amount of mass, people like Marcus Rule, Ronnie, you're gonna lose some shape. Yeah. You're not gonna be as hard as you were.
No.
But does that stand out to you as like one of the great memories in bodybuilding, or were you not really that impressed by that?
You know what? I stand by what I said before. I definitely a dog and live in a moment. I was there. I appreciated it, and I left it, and that was it. I can't live my life on the things I've done.
Mm-hmm.
So it's. I mean, in all the years you've known me, and you know I've done that competition, and I've been there. How many times have I brought it up in conversation?
None. It's always been other people asking you about it, or me asking you about it.
So, and that's, you know, the British. It's not that I haven't done them, or it's not that I'm not pleased with them, or whatever. It's just, I think, if you always go on about the things you've done, you can never find out what other people have done. You know, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so we should listen more than we talk. You know, and I find it hard to actually talk about things like that and not me personally feel like I'm bragging or I'm gloating or I'm doing this and doing that. I find it hard to talk about it objectively, or to, you know what I mean? It's that's just me. Maybe other people think differently about what I say and how I say things and stuff like that. But to talk about things like that, it's like, it's not. I don't know. I just find I was there, I did it, and I left. You know what I mean? It just. I don't know. I'm not normally stuck for words, but in them kind of situations, I don't know where it leads me, where I'm at, kind of thing. You know, because I've moved on and I've done so much more than that. That it's like, well, what about when I did that and when I did this and when I did that? You know, and then them things get supplanted by other memories and other things that we've done. You know.
Every experience is worth something, I guess. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. And I try to build a life full of experiences and memories, and not just events. You know what I mean? It's about every day you should be trying to better yourself. Every day you should be trying to add something to that book of your life.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to, when you shuffle off this mortal coil, and you don't want to look back and go, oh, I didn't do out that day. Or I didn't do nothing that week. You know, you should be able to think, I did something different every day, enough to make a difference.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't have to be big things. And this is very philosophical and very deep, but I think that's because of where we were earlier on today, looking around and seeing so many people turn up for this guy's funeral. It was kind of like very impressive. There must have been like 400 odd bikes there, you know, and stuff like that, and just maybe 600 people. Car park, the whole cemetery was just full. And so you think that this guy did something that these people respected in him.
Yeah.
That they travelled, a lot of people travel, a lot of different, you know, and a lot of bikes were there, and it's a wet day, they're all soaking wet. So they got their asses on the bikes in a wet day to come and pay respect to this guy. So I didn't know him particularly well, so I can't say what he would have done or what he gave out or what he was about. But something in him, these people saw enough to come and give respects. So, and that's it. And I think if you can try and do something every day that kind of makes you a better person and helps other people, then I think that's what you should do. You shouldn't try and just go, hey, look what I've done. It's not, life isn't all about you. It's about what you can do for other people. And I'm saying this now when I used to be a total selfish asshole. So I have progressed and have moved on a little bit. So maybe that's where we're at, that with age you do become a little bit more conservative in your outlook and about what you talk about.
And maybe you needed that quote-unquote selfish patch and being able to maybe disregard others a little bit to achieve what you did.
Oh, for sure.
And now you actually have the tools to help other people with their training and things like that.
I mean, tools is a very good word. Also skill set, because I didn't have any of those things in my youth. I was not very... I'm quite erudite now, very articulate, because I've made myself so. But when I left school, I wasn't very articulate. I was very good on the field and on the pitches and running around and being a thug. But articulate-wise, intellectually-wise, I wasn't that great. It's only as I've got older... I always had a passion to read, and I read from a very young age. And I read quite heavy books and articles and things like this. So I think it wasn't that I wasn't intelligent. I just don't think that the education system suited how I thought. If you know what I mean.
And you're quite I don't want to say, maybe you are a loner.
I'm very aloof. Not aloof as in me. I could quite easily be alone in a full room and it not bother me.
And you're an independent thinker, so
yeah.
I imagine that those two things didn't lend themselves very well to the education system. And you're probably not the most agreeable person, so I think that when you see something which is wrong, you don't just kind of go along with it.
No, I like to think that if, you know, there's something that's not quite right, I will stand up and say that's not quite right, you know. So
did those present problems in the educational system?
Could well have done, yeah.
Okay.
So that might stem from the root of it, is why I don't dwell on what I've done, kind of thing. So, yeah. But also my mum and dad were very, very humble. Realistically, my dad worked very, very hard. My mum worked very, very hard. You know, I'm not going to... Oh, we were poor and we had this. I'm not going to go down that route, because we weren't poor. We were full of love and all the rest of it. So maybe that does influence your thinking and your thought patterns and the way you are. So, you know, we're all sort of stem from our families, don't we, realistically? You know, good or bad, that's what you are.
So we can't really. You don't dwell on what you've done, but obviously there are still things to be done.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this one. I'm not a negative person, realistically. Although I can have deep conversations, like we just had there for 5 minutes, but I don't dwell on the darker aspects of things. My glass is always half empty, it's always half full. So, and I always think the better of things. I tend not to dwell on, mistakes that I've made. I think, okay, that's an opportunity that's not realised just yet. And so, yeah, going forward.
So I'm thinking at the moment about powerlifting.
Yeah.
For those who don't know your exact numbers, your best numbers in powerlifting have been.
Deadlift is 276, squat is 267, and my official bench is 145.
And those are as a under 82 masters lifter.
Yes.
Yeah. And like most recently, obviously, you're a bit older than when you did your very best numbers. Yeah. Most recently, at the British, what were your three?
240 squat, 240 deadlift, and my bench is shit because my shoulders are fucked. So I think it's about 115, something like that. So I've dropped 30 kilo off my bench because my shoulder just don't work anymore.
But that was enough to get you in the top 3, top 4 overall at the GPC British.
Something like that, yeah. I can't quite remember. So I didn't stay because I had to go back to work. But yeah, I think that's around about where we were.
So where are we looking at going now in powerlifting? Like, what's your next comp? And also
next comp will be Tattooed and Strong. And that'll be 7th and 8th of March next year, which will be the last one at that present venue. So we are trying to make it as big and as strong and as possibly the best that we can. So I do have a figure in mind. I've always wanted to pull 280. So that's my figure. I'm not going to bench, obviously, because I can't bench. So after Christmas, I'm going to do some bodybuilding now. I've got a few people that I'm training with and for. So we're kind of moving forward up to December. And then after that, I'm just going to concentrate on a big 280 pull. So I want to do that at Tattooed and Strong, so I can say, yeah, I managed to pull it, and I did it at that event, which is our signature event kind of thing.
So do you want to just talk a little bit about what Tattooed and Strong is for those who, I think most people in the British powerlifting scene know, but maybe there are people who don't know.
So if you don't know, Tattooed and Strong is the brainchild of my beloved wife, Tania George, who was a podcast number 14, was she? 13? 12. So recently, anyway, so she's did a podcast and she's wonderful. And she's very energetic and has lots of ideas, and sometimes I think, will you just stop thinking? So she had this idea once to just put together this little competition, and we were going to stick it in. There's a thing called the Tattoo Tea Party. It's a tattoo convention, and we said, this would be really good if we could do a powerlifting meet in a tattoo convention. So we went to the convention. It transpires that we actually know the woman that run the whole setup. So we had to sit down and a chat with her, and so we put together this tiny little competition. That was 7 years. Well, it will be 7 years to the day when we do the next one. And so it's just grown and got bigger and bigger and bigger. So now we have powerlifters all across the country, all across the world. They come, and it's a 2-day event, and it's normally the women and the guys on the Saturday, and then all the big guys on a Sunday. And we have a competition called King and Queen of the Deadlift. So, and it's just a straight out pull. The girl that pulls the biggest weight wins, and the guy that pulls the biggest weight wins, and that's it. But it's a phenomenal event. We have lots of people, lots of things. We have probably 80 lifters a day. So it's not mega busy, but it's always full and it's busy. But it's in the middle of a big tattoo convention. So you can wander around, see all these great tattoo artists. There's normally a fun fair. There's a mini circus. There's lots of different things that you can do. You can bring your kids. It's kid friendly. And so it's the last one that's going to be done. They've sold the building and they're going to move it. So it'll be the end of an era. It's nothing to do with us. It's just economics and finances. So I did the very, very first Tattooed and Strong one, and I pulled, I think it was like 270, 272 or something like that. Well, I didn't. I nearly did, because I don't know if you can remember when I hiked it up and it got to mid-thigh, and then I just lost balance. Because I'd only just gone into sumo, and it pulled me forward. Mm-hmm. And you know when people say, drop the bar, or don't drop the bar. So I didn't drop the bar, and so it flipped me over. I did a headstand, while still loading the bar. And there's a photograph somewhere of me holding the bar upside down with my head on the floor and my feet in the air. And that was the last time I competed at Town Song, because I thought by then he got really big and busy, and I couldn't compete and get people ready and do everything else I had to do. So I decided not to do that. So now, with it being the last one, I'm going to go and try and get this 280 deadlift that I missed and not do a handstand. Yeah. So that's my goal. So I'm going to get to Christmas, and then in the new year, just kind of work towards that. And then after that, I'm going to just see where we're at. And I fancy going to Canada next year to do the GPC Worlds.
Right, is that towards the end of the year, that one?
Yeah, that's... I can't remember when that is now. I think, could I qualify this year, that may still qualify me for next year's. Right. But if not, I'll do a qualifier, and then I want to go to Canada and spend a 10-day holiday over there doing the Worlds.
It does sound like an interesting place to go. It looks like an interesting... Have you been before?
No, I've never been. Well, that's a lie. If you want to call Niagara Falls Canada, it's basically America, Canada. Okay. So, but I went there for a bodybuilding show, so I was all ready, and I was really good, and I booked my tickets and my hotel, and then they cancelled it. So me and Sam went, we're going to go anyway. So, and Niagara Falls is a nice place to go for a weekend, not 10 days. And people said, how long are you here for? I went, 10 days. And I went, why are you fucking mad? And I said, well, we've never been, and we did this, and we didn't hire a car, so we just walked around, and we found lots of really interesting places, really hickey type bars where the band were playing, and they probably had a full set of teeth between all three of them. I found a brothel, which was really interesting, because I walked past and all the girls going, hi, how are you doing? All that.
Was it any good?
I didn't go in because I was with Tania at the time. I walked past them and said, them girls were really friendly. She went, it's a brothel, you idiot. And I went, oh, is it? Can we go back? No. So things like that. And then we found a Buddhist sanctuary. Can you believe that? Proper Buddhist sanctuary. And it was like, you go inside and it's a massive big grounds, and you can just walk in, and as soon as literally you're on the road, you go past the gates, and it's like somebody turns your ears off. It was like noisy. Nothing. So you walk around these grounds, and they're all stones and carvings and all these things, and then you go into the temple type of thing of it, and it's even quieter. And then people go, and they point you in directions, and there's a museum, and there's stuff you can buy, and you can go and do a little prayer, or you can. And I'm thinking, wow, this is amazing. And then we come out, and it's baking hot, so we went back in again, getting too hot. So it's better another hour in there till it went a bit cooler. Came out, walked onto the road, and it went noisy, shh, and then literally, it was like there was a sound barrier. It was bizarre, honest to God, bizarre. And then we found a butterfly sanctuary further down the road. So we spent 10 days. There was lots of things to do, yeah, and it was really funny. So, but yeah, there you go.
But you'll just kind of take, I guess you're just going to take one competition, each competition as it comes?
Yeah, pretty much so. Because I'm not as into everything as I was, kind of thing. Tan's now involved with a band. She's got a promotional company coming on. We've just had a guy stay with us for 5 days from America who's doing like a bit of a tour. So we've started to become an Airbnb for musicians. So we just have people over, they stay with us and go off and do the stuff.
An actual Airbnb?
No, I'm only kidding. But that's what it seems like. You know what I mean? Because we're inviting people over to come stay with us. You can you go out and do your tours. You can use us as a base kind of thing.
Right.
They go and do what they do, come back, sleep, get fed. So we save them a bit of money. We get to meet them. We're just making inroads into the music scene. So we've got contacts and people that we know. So we're building on that kind of thing. And so therefore, it doesn't leave me much time, really, to run the gym, to help Tam with all that kind of stuff, to compete. And that's why our travelling hadn't been the same, this last year or two as when we was here, there and everywhere. We probably do 3 or 4 competitions in a year. And now we get one, just because, and Tan still referees, so she goes off and does stuff. But we're just too busy with everything else, and it's a nice place to be busier out of that kind of thing. Like I say, I'd still run the gym, so I'm in the gym still 5-6 days a week, still 40, 50, 60 hours a week. So it's nice to have an outlet where it doesn't involve training people, massaging egos, massaging plates. It's nice to have alternatives.
Yeah, it forces you to be out of the gym, because as I can imagine, if you wanted to be, or if you made yourself available to be, you could be at the gym all week, and then people would have competitions, and you'd have to be there too. So it'd just
that used to be the case.
Your life would be one thing.
So, and that's why I don't do so many preps anymore. Because I just got fed up with people texting me. Like 10 o'clock, I'm off the clock, and they would still send me texts, and it wouldn't be like, "Hi, can I eat this?" It'd be like 3 or 4 pages of text messages like, "Oh, I'm not feeling so good at this, that, and I'm thinking, wow, and then I just go, give them like a 2-word answer and get on with it. I mean, it's like
some bodybuilders aren't needy at all, are they?
Oh. No. So I've definitely diverged from that kind of thing.
Tan's promotional company seems to be going really
well.
Yeah, I'm learning more
Presents, about it. That's really good. I mean, the thing with Tania is that she has loads of ideas that she doesn't act on, and then all of a sudden she go, "This is the one," and then she'll just jump in feet first. What
very
she's
creative person, isn't she?
She's driven. That's the thing. It's like I don't know how this works. I'm going to do it anyway. She's fearless in that respect, and she's just been. I'd say it won't mean anything to anybody else that doesn't know, but within the music scene, it was like anything, I suppose. If people at the top, they're a bit hard to get hold of and a bit aloof and there's not. And she just goes, "Oh, I really like them," and then she'll just go, "Hi, I've got my promotional company. If you ever come into England, can I fucking promote your band, or can I set you up a gig?" And they're going, "Hell yeah. Who are you?" I mean, before they even know it, we could do that. She almost like catches them out. And so they just go, "Yeah, that's okay." And then they look at her and they find out that she's genuine, and everything we do is aboard, and we try and make everything. The thing with the gigs is that we try and, when we put competitions on, we try to make them the best that we can. So people will go, "That was a great comp. I didn't want for anything. Everything was spot on," all that kind of stuff. And the same thing with the gigs and the band coming over. We try to give them everything that they want. So Tan plays in a band, and we think, right, if you were going to play there, what would you want? Yeah, you'd want all your stuff there, you'd want this there, you'd want all that. So we try and make sure that everything that we think that they would want, or that we would want, is there. So when they come over, not only are they playing and having an experience with the audience, they're also having an experience themselves. So it makes them think, "Well, that was good. I went there and I did this. Oh, and I played a gig." It wasn't like I went there and played a gig and left. We want the other experience to be the same as well, So, and I think that's what kind of will set us apart. I think because we care.
It's more intimate, isn't it?
Yeah.
From what I understand. I mean, I'm coming to one of the gigs on. I can't remember exactly what the band is called. I'll just butcher
the Goat
it.
Ropers.
Yes,
that's
the one.
Yeah, they're very really. You will have a really great time. These guys are really funny. They're really quirky. They're very, very good musicians.
I believe Reese Forward and Stella Higgins are going to the same one.
Yes.
So Tanya tells me. So
So
that'll be an interesting
if
evening.
nothing else, you can have a bench press competition. It'll be fine.
As long as it doesn't end up being a squat competition.
No.
I'll definitely lose.
I chose bench on purpose. I don't want you feeling I'm picking on you.
Tell me a little bit about. Well, I guess it's impossible to tell me a little bit about a 27-year-old business. I guess. Tell me a little bit about how the gym and how that's going.
What, a history of the gym? A brief, a white 27-year-old when we
started?
started?
Yeah, why not?
Well, when I started bodybuilding, as you know, and I still worked when I did, and I thought, this is rubbish, I can't do this and do that. So I gave up work and went back to university and did a HND in Leisure Studies Management. Because I knew I could run a gym, I just didn't know how to do the finances, the books and all that kind of stuff. So while I was there, I bumped into my year head tutor kind of thing, who was an older guy, and he was very savvy with money and things like that. So
Alan, right?
Yeah, Alan Brett. So you're supposed to do a dissertation at the end, and that's how you finish your HND off. So my original plan was to set up a gym theoretically for people with disabilities. So I looked into all of that. I got loads of different bits and bobs, but the amount of red tape that was surrounding it was just astronomical. And I thought this just too big a project for the time that I've got left. So I said, I can't do it. So I went and spoke to Alan, because I was halfway through by this point. I said, look, this isn't going to work, because it will never get off the ground. You know what I mean? The red tape is just insurmountable for this time limit and the time frame. So he said, right, okay, so what else can you do? I said, well, could I turn it around and say, I'm going to buy the gym then? Because I already worked here and I knew everything. So he said, well, see what you can do. He said, get the books and we'll see what can happen. So I managed to get the books off the guy that owned it. So Alan looked through it all and went, yeah, that's fine. It's all feasible. It works. It stacks up. How much does he want? So I said, well, how much do you want? So he said, this figure. So I said, he wants this much. So he said, right, okay, I'll back you. So Alan put up a considerable amount of money. I found the other half and he put up some more. So we bought the gym out and that was it. So that's how the Olympic gym started. And that was, like I say, nearly 27 years ago. So we had a 2-year and a 5-year plan of paying the gym off. Well, firstly, getting it up and running, making money, and then the 5-year plan was to pay off all the debts and the bills and all of it. We were so successful that we actually paid off the 5-year plan within the first 2 years. We just smashed it. But like everything else, I sacked everybody that worked here, and I worked for the first 6 months on my own, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day for 6 months. Then I brought some people back in, and then we did that, and then we went on again. And so I didn't have a holiday for the first 7 years because I just worked my nuts off. And that's kind of how I managed realistically to get better as a bodybuilder, because I just immersed myself into this and into that. And then the gym just kind of was almost basically my playground. I had the whole gym to train in. So any equipment I wanted, any machines I wanted, we bought. So realistically, that gym out there is a Paul George playground.
Right.
So that's what made me good, because everything that worked that I wanted, I could just go out and buy. So, and that's realistically how we went. Now, when I first started, there was a lot of competition in the aspect of the gym that we have. But it's old school, spit and sawdust, all them kind of terminologies. And there used to be lots of them, and now there isn't. So we're almost like a dinosaur.
Yep.
There's very few hardcore gyms around. There are still quite a few, but not as many as there used to be. You know, you got all the pure gyms, your other gyms, all these budget gyms, that, you know, whatever. And they were always going to be a competition, but we never imagined it would be so big a competition. The amount of money that they have on advertising is more than my turnover. You know what I mean? So they just throw money at things. They can waste people coming in. Just no matter, get them through the door, because you know that 10,000 people are never going to train in that gym in a week. But if you can sell 10,000 memberships, that's what pays it. Yeah. That's what does it. You know, so we have struggled over the last... I've had 2 or 3 instances where we've nearly gone to the wall, you know, but we've managed somehow to claw it back and to be successful again, and then depression and then back in. But I would think that these last 2 or 3 years have probably been the hardest sustained attack on the gym because of external forces. You know, just tough to compete with people that are just charging silly money for an inferior product. Where I think the public service that they get, or people get from there, is abysmal. You know, and I don't think gyms like ours are appreciated as much as they should be by the populace. I don't think they understand how much information and knowledge we have and how accessible we are. I think a lot of people look at us and think, oh, meatheads, or that's not the gym for me, or you've got to be so big or so strong to go there. So therefore, they will divest and divert their money into places like that, where they can go in, have a play, drop things, make a mess, and go out with no responsibility. There's nobody there that's going to say, can you put that weight away? Or, excuse me, sir, I don't know you, but I think you could do that better. Yeah. You know, let me just show you how this could benefit you better.
And whereas if it is, sorry to cut you up, and if it is someone doing that, all they try to do is sell you PT.
Yeah, so, you know, so I have no vested interest in, I have my PTs and I have my clients, but the rest of the gym, if I see somebody doing something wrong, I'll go and tell them that they're doing it wrong. Yeah. But I'll show them why they're doing it wrong, and why it would be better to do this and why that. So it's not like it's an ego for me because, hey, look who I am. I've done this. Let me show you. It's like, you know what, you could do this better, and that's all it is. It's just about making sure that they're doing it better. You know. So. Yeah.
And I fully agree with you. in the aspects of how much it's changed, because we've even in my relatively short time scale in this kind of in these sports compared to you, like I've seen gyms close down, open up and close down.
Yeah.
I've seen like the rise of chain gyms, just more and more and more.
Yeah.
And I think it's I think the people who go to the chain gyms will always be quite difficult to get across these finer points to, because I think that's just always the way they'll be, kind of thing.
We're not a panacea for everybody, not everyone's going to come here and enjoy it and like it and whatever, and there is a place for certain other establishments, because certain people, that's all they want, that's all they need, and they have no aspirations above that. But in the middle there is a grey area of people that want more than that but don't think they can do this. And so in some respect that could be a failing on my half, that I've not managed to convey what we offer, how well we can offer things, what we can do for people enough. Maybe I've not done enough advertising, not enough marketing, or maybe not the right kind of marketing. But that's not who I am, if you know what I mean. If I had a different head on, then maybe I could have done that and made better of it. But that's not how I wire, so I haven't.
Yeah, I think in your defence, though, I think it is these days it is quite a difficult business model to compete with, in terms of the price they offer it at. Fair enough, when people do get into these contracts, they don't realise how difficult it is to get out of them. It's very difficult to get out with them, without incurring a big cost anyway. But like you say, it is quite a difficult business model to compete with, and I think that's quite a sad thing, because I love gyms like this. Do you know what I mean? Like I always have done. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the thing with this is we have conversations going from end of the gym to the other end of the gym. We can be that, but they are a character in the gym, and I think a lot of them other chain ones, they don't even speak to each other.
No, it's not a community.
They're not going to shout down the gym to, hey, put that away, or all these kind of innuendo jokes, and people call it locker room humour. Yeah. But we have a lot of girls here that get involved in locker room humour as well. Yeah. So it's not like it's exclusively all male. We're not misogynist. We're not, you know what I mean? We have a lot of good lifting girls here who put a lot of effort in. And they're as inclusive in the jokes as everybody else. And they're as inclusive in all the banter that goes on. Yep. So we're not a meathead gym, and we're not a sterile gym. We are a living, organic version, a microcosm of the world. Yeah. Because we get everybody in, ages, races, colours, sex, whatever. You know what I mean? And I think that's how a gym should function. Not everybody's here to be a world champion. Yeah. But we can all be here to have a laugh. You know what I mean? We can get on with each other. To
enrich your life.
Yeah, I mean, we have some big benches, we have some big squatters, and there's been plenty of time when there's only been a couple of girls in, say, oh, can you just spot me while I do this? Yeah. You've had it where, Abby might have spotted you, or she's been on the monolift while you're squatting, or watching your bench, stuff like that. So if you include women into them things, they don't feel that they can't not do them things. And once you've established a bit of confidence in them, they're away. You know what I mean? And it's like, and then next time you don't ask them to spot you, well, why have you not asked me? Yeah. Am I not good enough anymore? Like, no, you're fine.
With a far more effective training program for them as well, I don't think we need to espouse the benefits of weight training for women versus what a lot of women would typically do, where it's just plodding on the treadmill for hours.
We're not here to beat anybody else up about what their training programs are not. It's just about what I've seen over 26 years, 27 years that works. Yeah. You know what I mean? And women are just as capable. In fact, some women are far more capable than some of the guys, to be fair. They definitely have. Most of them have more grit than some of the guys. They won't fail as early. They will put more into doing something. A guy will go, that'll do. Whereas I know I've seen girls go, I'll just get another one. Yeah. They might get another two. Whereas I know the guy will have stopped. For sure.
There's more emotion there in a lot of cases on competition days as well.
Especially,
there's a lot more emotion.
Going back slightly to the tattoo and strong, the Saturday is always the busier day.
Yeah.
And I know we have a lot of women there, and not, you know, some of the women are quite attractive in their unitards and leotards. But I think people go there to see the emotion and the passion of them, especially when they're deadlifting.
Yep.
You know, because you've got 500-600 people in a little semicircle watching this little 56, 65 kilo girl pulling 160, 180 maybe.
And they do grind them out,
and they do grind them out, and you got everybody going, don't drop it, keep pulling, keep pulling. And, you know, I've been on the other side of that, where you look out, and you've been on the other side of it, when you've got 600 people shouting at you, you're thinking, I can't put this down now, I can't put this down now, you know. And it does get you going, you know, it does get you going. So...
Yeah. What do you have any future plans for the gym?
Just stay in business at this moment. Really, it is tight, and we have cut our cloth according to our needs. Really, there is no money. There's no big budget to go, you know what, I'm going to re-kit everything, and I'm just going to do that. We've started to bring in other PTs, as you're aware of. So we have a PT scheme going on, so you can come and train your clients through the gym. We're just trying to be better at what we've always been good at, you know. We're just trying to bring in clients and keep them positive. And the retention rate is very good at the gym. We don't have millions of people coming and going. We have quite a few people come and stay.
Yeah.
And in that respect, I think that works well for us. It's a good model. We have one of our catchphrases is that, you know, where everybody knows your name. Yeah. And I can guarantee that when we leave here and we're going to the gym, whether there's 10 people in or 100 people in, we will know everybody. Yeah. You know what I mean? Whatever the name is, we'll know what the kids are, all that kind of stuff. So, and that's how I like it to be. Is
more like a pub than a nightclub. That's how I would liken these type of gyms. Like in a pub, it forms a community, where a nightclub, you don't see the same two people. Do you know what I mean? Not that I frequent those establishments much, but...
No, but it's easier to run a gym where you know everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and then because there's no mither, nobody's kicking off, nobody's causing any trouble, and because everybody's responsible and accountable to each other. You know what I mean? Like I say, if somebody asks you to spot, you spot. If somebody asks you to do this, then you do that. And it isn't an issue, and it's not like, oh, why are you asking me when, you know, it's like, because you're part of the gym, and it's a part of the family thing, you know. So that's kind of where we're at, really, Al.
And if anyone, let me just get the sound right, there we go, it's back. If anyone does want to come down, try Olympic Gym, what's the...
It's $4.50 for a session, £14 for the week and £40 for the month, and then we can negotiate whatever after that.
Eccles.
Yeah, the Olympic Gym, Bridgewater Mill, Lee Street, Eccles, M30 OUT.
Cool.
And that's my hard sell, by the way. It doesn't get any better than that.
And we've only talked for 2 hours and 8 minutes, so I think we should probably wrap it up there.
Yeah, that's good.
You've been great, Mr.
Big
G.
Al,
Thank you very much.
I know we've talked before, and no doubt we will talk again. But that's been an armchair experience.
Thank you very much.
Strength Magazine.
Yeah.
Alexander Clark.
Subscribe at BritishStrengthMagazine.com.